Please welcome to the stage Axios co-founder Mike Allen.
Good afternoon and welcome to Axios. To my in-person hosts here, we're thrilled to be in Northwest Arkansas, one of the country's fastest growing economies. And within that fast growing economy and the 3 counties and 5 cities that make up the NWA, the recreation economy is one of the biggest. And that's our focus today. We're excited to dig into that. And so thank you for joining us. I've been excited to come here and I'm very excited about this topic. Just prepping for this topic has been fun. For the people who are joining us around the world, our virtual guests, we're in downtown Bentonville, which is the mountain biking capital of the world. So to those of us who are joining virtually, welcome to Arkansas, the natural state. We're coming to you from Bentonville in the Ozark Mountains, and we'd love for you to tweet along, #Axios events. We'd like to thank our sponsor, the Northwest Arkansas Council, Nelson Peacock and his team, showing us that, as they say, life works here. Special thank you to the readers of Axios Northwest Arkansas. Axios Local has been one of the coolest things that we've done in the 6 years of Axios. Axios Northwest Arkansas was one of our first, and our journalist here, Worth Sparkman, who has one of the best names in all of journalism. He's a biker, outdoor photographer. Alex Golden, who's a swimmer, and there's up and coming open swimming here in Northwest Arkansas, among other things, across Axios Local, including Axios Northwest Arkansas. We love to bring you efficient, trustworthy information that helps you navigate how you live, work, and play. And we try to be your smart friend in your pocket. So thank you for reading. Our show's a little different than initially we planned. Unfortunately, Stacey Hurst, the Secretary of the Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism, as an extenuating circumstance, isn't able to join us. We're sorry about that. But we're very fortunate that our first guest is right in the middle of the recreation economy. Catherine Andrews, who is the director of the Office of Outdoor Recreation at the Arkansas Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism, is in her first year there. But more importantly, Catherine is a Razorback. She has a BS in Business Administration from the Sam M. Walton College of Business at the University of Arkansas. Catherine Andrews, welcome to Axios. So much for joining us, Catherine, and happy anniversary. You've been in this role for 1 year.
That's right.
What's the most exciting thing that you've gotten to do as the director?
Oh, that's a really good question. Probably go kayaking. I've also been duck hunting. Fun outdoor stuff.
And Saturday is an opening day.
That's right. Muzzleloader.
Yeah. Where did you kayak?
I kayaked in Little Rock on the Maumelle River.
And what's the biggest thing that you've accomplished in the year as the first director, and what do you hope to be known for?
This was a big year for us. It was really a formative year. The Office of Outdoor Recreation has not existed in Arkansas until now. So it took a year for us to build the structure, the formation of the office. We are the 16th formal office of outdoor recreation in the country. So still a very new concept across the US. So we really had to sit down and build the strategic plan, mission statement, goals, priorities of the office. So building that structure and formation was most important for us in this first year, and building relationships throughout the year. And you'll see a lot more of that coming.
So, Catherine, I was chatting a few days ago with Secretary Hurst, and she said, the world has discovered Arkansas. From your perspective, what are they finding?
People are finding that this is not just a flyover state. So people are actually coming here to recreate, and we found that big time during COVID. We saw our highest tourism tax figures to date. We saw our highest record visitation to state parks, our highest visitation to our national parks. Hot Springs National Park is now the 38th most visited park in the system of over 400 parks. So people are coming here to do things outside.
So Axios loves two things. We love breaking news and we love data. So what could be better? You come bearing breaking data.
Yes.
So you put out some new figures yesterday. What's the most interesting, illuminating thing for our guests that you learned from that data about the recreation economy in Arkansas?
In Arkansas, we saw increases across the board. So the Bureau of Economic Analysis studies the impact of outdoor recreation on our nation's economy. They put out a report every year. That report just got published yesterday, so first time for us to really talk about it. We saw increases in our GDP, in employment, in wages across the board. We have almost 40,000 people across the state employed in outdoor recreation in some form. And then we've got about $3.5 billion of GDP from outdoor recreation in the state.
I've been lucky enough to visit here a couple times just this year, and the changes are amazing. And chatting with people who've lived here for a long time, like a whole ecosystem has grown up here in a very short time. It's like one of the more, I travel all around the country. It's one of the more fascinating economic development experiments that's going on everywhere with real results. I'm especially fascinated by the incredible network of gravel bike trails that have grown up. What else would you point us to from the recreation and the outdoor perspective of how things have changed just in the time that you've been working here?
That is a fabulous question. Really the perception, the growth of all of these industries. One thing that people might not associate with Arkansas is the cycling, but now they do. That has been a huge growth sector for us.
Part of it's the weather, right? You can do it all year.
The weather, you can do it all year.
Like what else made it so conducive? What made that your thing?
So we have an incredible geography that lends itself to cycling. In north central Arkansas, you've got great gravel mountain biking, but as you get closer to the Delta, it flattens out. You got really great road cycling, really great gravel still. So tons of different opportunities for cycling, not just one specific one.
So one of the functions of your office is to educate people, let people know about the range of our outdoor activities here. So we're going to play a game. I'm going to try and stump you.
Oh boy.
I am going to name a couple outdoor activities, and then you're going to name a couple that I missed. So
Okay.
Incredible climbing, incredible birding, cycling, both road and gravel. Now you go.
Okay. Recreational flying. Arkansas is the only state in the U.S. where you can hunt both an elk and an alligator in the same state.
Okay, that is a fun fact. Okay, that should be your lead, let me say. For those who are tweeting along at #Axios events, that's the.
We also have we also have the world's longest bayou in Arkansas, so you can go down and try to see the ivory-billed woodpecker down there. Lots of different stuff. Anything outside of snow sports or ocean sports, you can do in Arkansas.
Okay, so you mentioned flying and backcountry aviation. JT and I were chatting about this before the event. Backcountry aviation was one of my most fascinating discoveries. The little planes that land in the creek bed. Tell us about backcountry aviation.
Backcountry aviation is really taking off. Pardon my pun.
Drop the mic.
We have, and especially up here in Northwest Arkansas, you can get to all kinds of different spots that you wouldn't normally, that would normally take a long time to get to. You can do that in a weekend. You can go fly in, bring your mountain bike with you, bring some camping gear, fly in, camp for the weekend, hang out, do some activities, and then fly home. So it's making a lot of places in Arkansas really accessible.
This is another example of like some of the fascinating infrastructure for outdoor recreation that's gone in around Arkansas. There are now actual landing strips
Right.
For backcountry aviation. Like that's just something you rarely hear about or see.
Yeah, and that's very unique to Arkansas. A lot of our counterparts across the U.S. don't necessarily have that infrastructure yet, so we're really leading the way in recreational flying.
Axios always likes to look at what's next. Little crystal ball, what is your dream for the next infrastructure, or where would you say the recreation economy, like the outdoor economy opportunities are going in Arkansas?
There are a few. So according to the BEA data and what we're seeing in economic impact data, our biggest sectors of the outdoor recreation economy in Arkansas are boating and fishing, hunting, shooting and trapping, and RV sales. And then cycling, obviously, is the next big trend, the next big sector that's coming up. So there are tons of opportunities for growth in those areas. We have a lot of really big boat manufacturers in the state that make a big impact. So continuing to grow those, as well as our entrepreneurial and innovation spirit that's happening in outdoor recreation here in Arkansas. So working with the University of Arkansas, the GORT program, trying to foster a lot of that growth in our small businesses and startups. That's where the future of this office is going to go.
And so you're going to help people make money.
Yeah, that's the goal. Helping to grow the economy.
What are some of those new functions or new companies that you're excited about?
I really hope that this office can help grow local companies. It's one thing to bring some really big companies to Arkansas, and recruitment wins are fabulous, but working to grow the companies that we have here, foster ideas from entrepreneurs and innovators, will really help grow the economy.
I know that diversity of all kinds is important to your department, your office. What are some of the ways that recreation, economy, and the opportunities there can help promote diversity?
So, accessibility has not always been easy for a lot of people. And we definitely recognize that in the state. So we have a grant program called the Outdoor Recreation Grants Program that provides two types of grants for infrastructure. So they give grants to communities across the state to build parks and trails and basketball courts and splash pads. And most of those communities that we give grants to have never had any kind of accessibility to outdoor recreation infrastructure before. So we're actually doing things on the ground to help with that kind of thing, spreading the love all across the state instead of just in our urban centers.
For the city slickers who are watching, what are splash pads?
Splash pads are big pads on the ground where kids can go and water shoots up and you run around and play. You don't have to have a lifeguard.
I'm in. Something else that's very important to your office and that you personally have been focused on are health outcomes. Tell us about that.
Right. So we know that not only does outdoor recreation not only helps with business attraction, workforce retention, quality of life, all of these great economical aspects, but also with public health and wellness. And we are hoping to kick off a study that will look at rates of diabetes, obesity, PTSD, all of these health-related issues and how they're affected over time as you go outside. We really want some data behind why outdoor recreation is important to our physical and mental health. And so we're going to look at that. And there have been studies all across the U.S. that have proven why being outside, and we all know it inherently, but it's fabulous to have data that backs it up. So we'll hopefully be getting to some of that.
My Axios events colleagues, Roderick and Ebony, are about to give us the hook here. So just squeezing in a rapid round. See, they have a red light that's starting to blink. So squeezing in our rapid round. NWA's great connector is the Razorback Greenway. Tell us about the Razorback Greenway.
Yeah, so the Razorback Greenway is a large regional connector. People use it not only for getting out and having fun on a trail, but they use it to get to work. So you can find people out there all the time biking to work, moms with strollers, people taking a walk on their lunch break. That regional system has really put Northwest Arkansas on the map. It's one of the gems for this area.
So you worked in commercial real estate earlier in your career. You're a young leader. We have a lot of young leaders in this audience and in our virtual audience. What's your advice to a young person who is a leader or wants to be a leader?
I would say know who you are and be confident in that, because you're going to get tested in many ways, but as long as you know who you are and you know what you believe in, then you can go anywhere.
And what's as you were coming up, what's a time you think about where you evinced, showed confidence?
In this new role,
Yeah.
since it's totally new. I really had to work to build the structure of this office, and there were some uncertain times in that, wading through the dark on some things because there's no rule book, there's no map of how these offices should be built, and so being able to have the confidence to do that is a great example.
At Axios, we always finish with one fun thing, and you've been a hunter since younger than most hunters. Tell us how you came to be a hunter.
Yeah, so I grew up in a family of mostly men, and they were like, well, what are we going to do with her? She's the first grandchild, and she's a girl. So they took me on all the hunting adventures, all the duck hunting trips, got to go up and hunt deer when I was little, and grew up doing that.
And you said as soon as you were old enough to wear a life jacket, you were in the boat.
I got to go in the boat. Yep. As long as I could wear a life jacket, I was allowed to go in the boat.
And your drop the mic moment. So most of us, when we think of a deer stand, we're thinking of maybe that light, right? Tell us about your deer stand.
Our deer stand is 30 feet. So you better be able to go up that tower.
And
you better be able to climb that ladder.
You do? Well, what have you gotten from up there?
I've gotten 3 deer the last couple of years. And we actually have had that stand for a really long time. And I watched, the first time I went hunting with my dad, deer hunting with my dad, I watched him shoot a deer. So pretty cool experience up in that tower.
Well done. Well, Catherine, thank you for a great conversation and congratulations on year 1.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine Andrews. And now we're going to have a view from the top with my Axios colleague, Kristen Burkhalter, SVP of Events and Creative Strategy at Axios.
Hi, I'm Kristen, an SVP at Axios, and I'm now excited to introduce Tom Walton, who's the co-founder of Runway Group. Hi, Tom. Welcome to Axios.
It's great to be here with you today, Kristen.
So, Tom, this is my second time to the beautiful city of Bentonville, and I live outside of Washington, D.C. in Virginia, near Axios HQ. And as I was heading out the door yesterday, my husband ran out and said, make sure if you have any free time to check out any available real estate. So I hope that lets you know that I'm a huge fan of Bentonville. And I'm also really excited about this conversation and this event on the recreation economy because it's so important into what's happening right here, right now. So if it's okay with you, let's just jump straight in.
That's great. And I'm sorry I'm not able to be there today. It was my intent. We had a medical issue that arose yesterday and I had to leave town abruptly, but I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Well, Tom, we are definitely thinking about you and your family. All right. So Northwest Arkansas has historically been known as the home of entrepreneurs, but has recently reemerged as the outdoor recreation destination and the mountain biking capital of the world. From your perspective, tell me about the success of this industry.
Well, for all of those that haven't actually been able to go out and experience our trails, I would encourage you to go do that. What you'll find, which I think is very interesting, is folks coming from all walks of life, all shapes and sizes, all backgrounds are utilizing our trail systems. They've been designed in a way that curate towards the beginner, and that has opened up a much bigger funnel in terms of market size. So get out there and check it out. I think you'll like what you see. What we've done in Bentonville and throughout really Northwest Arkansas and Arkansas is put a focus on the trail system and building a world-class trail system in close proximity to where people live. And I'm excited about that focus because it's allowed us to build momentum over the long term. And that momentum is now starting to really pay off. You have a number of locals that are using it on a daily basis. The frequency in which they use it is something that I think all communities should pay attention to. It has a high level of return on investment. But that momentum is also allowing us to seed investments from outdoor rec entrepreneurs. And in Northwest Arkansas alone, you actually have 47 different cycling related industry businesses that have popped up that are utilizing the platform, the trail system that exists there. There are 7 in the outdoor rec entrepreneurial program at the University of Arkansas that are incubating. And maybe more exciting than that, there's folks in the industry, the cycling industry from around the US and the globe that are looking at Arkansas and Northwest Arkansas as a hub for relocation.
And speaking about investing, why do communities need to be thinking about investing in their natural environments?
Well, it's really quite simple. I think from COVID, the opportunity for communities to differentiate themselves by offering unique quality of life has become more and more important and obvious. And in having a strong point of view on your outdoor recreation amenity is good for business. We know that talent now can live almost anywhere, and that flexibility in the work environment is different and something that communities need to pay attention to. I was talking with the incoming governor at Arkansas, Sarah Sanders, just about how important it is for us to change our mindset, that it's no longer about recruiting businesses, it's about recruiting talent. And that shakeup coming out of COVID is a blessing for places like Arkansas that have tremendous natural assets and amenities. We just have to figure out the focus on which way we want to go and leverage that to our potential.
Really important. I totally agree. People can live anywhere. And I already mentioned that I love it here. So let's zoom out and let's talk a little bit about the economic impact in Arkansas. Tell me what you're expecting in terms of growth here.
Well, it was interesting. I was reading just the other day just about the new federal study that came out that showed that there's been a big increase in the overall economic impact from the outdoor rec economy. I think it's $682 billion annually, which is larger than the oil and gas combined with mining, combined with agriculture on an annual basis. So massive amount of opportunity there. I get super excited. Arkansas only, I think, has around $3 billion on an annual output in terms of the economic benefit. But I'm looking for ways to partner with the state and the industry folks across this state to explore ways that we can grow at an accelerated pace. And when I think about the future, there's a couple areas that we're piloting in 2023 to look at growth. One of those is this strategy around rural recreational roads. And that's an economic development strategy it'll focus on 25 or so different communities throughout Arkansas. And the plan is to look at the gravel road infrastructure, the soft surface, dirt roads, and to leverage the trap value inside them. In Benton County alone, there's over 1,200 miles of gravel roads. And we know over the last 2 years, the gravel cycling business has grown at a 50% 2-year stack. So this is something that I'm super excited about. We're going to be piloting it in 2023, but I think it'll be applicable across the states with communities that want to attract gravel cyclists from the state and from out of the state to their towns. The next thing that I think is exciting about growth and the potential, when you look at Arkansas, we have some of the best outdoor amenities. I don't think that anybody will question that, but the access to them is something that we need to work on. And I've been working with a group to identify in climbing over 7,000 routes across the state that we could potentially open up access for climbing in our beautiful landscape. Now, the key to that in climbing, and one thing that we've learned, is that you have to focus on the beginner in mind. And the way in which you do that is through promoting and opening access for bouldering gyms. So this is a strategy that we're looking at, growing the number of beginners in the climbing industry. The last thing that I'm excited about for Arkansas and something that we're going to pilot, when you think about the free-flowing river systems, just look at Northwest Arkansas. There are 11 beautiful rivers within an hour drive. How do we open up access for operators and for locals and for tourists to go and access them on SUPs and kayaks? This unless you're a local with deep knowledge, is hard to gauge when the rivers are flowing right and how to get there. So we'll be looking at strategies to open up that river access as well.
Super exciting, lots to watch here. I want to go back to one point that you made related to access and gravel roads, specifically for cyclists. How will this initiative impact those residents who are not already avid cyclists?
Well, I like to think of, in the cycling world as, mountain biking would be the equivalent of the ski industry, where you have slopes going down the front, and mountain biking is great. And we were trying to look at it through the beginner lens, but it is limited because it doesn't have the overall appeal that gravel cycling is able to offer, which is riding safely on roads that don't have a lot of cars and having more of an adventure element to it that allows you to go and see some of the most beautiful places that our state has to offer. So everybody knows me as a mountain biker, but I get more and more excited about the gravel cycling and the opportunity that Arkansas has to shine on that front.
Definitely lots to watch here. We like to end on one fun thing at Axios. So tell us about one of your most memorable outdoor adventures, either here in Bentonville or in Arkansas.
Well, growing up, I didn't have a TV in our house, so our parents would get us outside all the time. And my favorite activity that when I look back on that has deep kind of emotional ties to me was floating the Buffalo River. We would do it oftentimes 3 to 4 times a year. And we would do these overnight float trips. And, I was a big fan of Dr. Compton and his efforts to preserve the Buffalo. And I just think Arkansas has some of the best free-flowing river systems in the country, and we need to leverage those. So that's the experience that shines in my heart.
Okay, I'm going to add that to my to-do list for the next time I come. Tom, thank you so much for your time today and for your smart insights. It was great talking to you.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
And now let's hear from my colleague, Worth Sparkman.
And now, please welcome Axios Northwest Arkansas reporter, Worth Sparkman.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Worth Sparkman. I'm a Northwest Arkansas reporter for Axios. I'm so excited to bring Axios to NWA and show off the recreation economy. So I'm really, really happy that everybody showed up here today. Our next guest helps communities build programs for active mobility and recreation. Please welcome to the stage Lane Shift founder and CEO, Ryan Hale. It's good to see you. Ryan, thank you for joining us. And, I was thinking about it last night. Our careers have intersected several times. It's leading up to this moment, it feels like this was just meant to be. Tell us, if you could, there are several things that Lane Shift does that are around active transportation. But what is active transportation and why does it matter?
Yeah. Active transportation is really, you can think about it as any kind of human-powered mobility, if you will. So that would be like bikes, that would be people on foot, that would be skateboards, scooters. And with the innovation that's happening around micro-mobility, we kind of really put that micro-mobility into that as well. So active transportation is really kind of any human-powered mobility.
Okay, and why is it important?
Yeah. We believe in what the data is showing is that communities that are more connected are actually stronger. We're stronger physically because we're being more active. We're stronger relationally because we have the opportunity to connect with each other in different ways. And when we think about our communities, the way that we have traditionally developed, I think is a lot of communities are really kind of questioning that. And they're saying, you know what, we want to be more connected. We want to have more options available, and maybe kind of change some of our reliance on a single form of transportation.
Great, thank you. So you work with a variety of clients, communities, companies, advocacy groups. What types of services can Lane Shift bring to an organization?
Yeah, well, we are a planning and design firm focused on active transportation, and our mission is really to build resilient people and places through active transportation. So that looks like working very closely with a client. We sometimes we feel like we're the ghosts in the machine a little bit, kind of helping guide and nudge clients in a certain direction on a plan or a strategic plan, trails and connectivity planning at a regional or city level. And then also moving into the design aspect. So not just planning corridors and where they should go, but actually then taking the step and designing them. A lot of our focus, though, is around education. And I'm really happy that we are in the middle of our Active Transportation Academy right now, and it just so happened that we were in Bentonville, and so our Academy people are here today. Woo woo! We've got folks from all over, not all over the region, from several states here, kind of learning from Northwest Arkansas. So, last thing I would say on that is just we believe through education, we believe that if we can kind of begin to change the way that people think about their communities, we can change the way that they act and behave and make decisions within their communities. And so that's why that education is so important.
Okay. Give us a sketch real quick for anybody that doesn't know about your academy and what people are doing here.
Yeah, so we are very focused on immersive experiences. Many people come to our academy and haven't ridden a bike in years. And we're able to kind of unlock some of these core memories of what that felt like as a child to ride, and the sense of freedom that comes with that. And so our academy is really focused on teaching professionals. It's a professional development course focused on teaching people how to build a more connected community. And our model is really focused on infrastructure and culture. What we've learned a lot over the years, in particular here in the rural South and the Midwest, is that we used to say, build it and they will come. And that's true in Portland, that's true in New York City, and that's true in other places. But what we've learned over time is that build it, incentivize it, program it, encourage it, program it some more, and it will get used. And so what a lot of communities kind of miss is the cultural aspect and how important it is to not just develop safe, comfortable, and connected infrastructure, but really focus on developing a welcoming, inclusive, and encouraging environment for people on foot and on bike.
Okay, great. So there's an investment for communities or companies of money, resources, time, effort. What are the benefits, and you've touched on some of them, but what are some of the economic benefits that an organization or a community would see?
Yeah, well, thankful for the Walton Family Foundation in partnership with People for Bikes. They funded a study in 2017 that really explored the economic impact of biking on our region. And so the study really focused on 2 counties, Benton and Washington County alone. And it's really fascinating data that showed that biking in Northwest Arkansas generates $137 million a year for our economy. Now, that's not like one event, that's not a one-time, that is every year. And that was from 2017, and it's only grown since then. And so obviously the economic data is through the roof. We have about 80, how that breaks down, we have about 86 million of that is in healthcare related costs. So when we're riding more, we're healthier socially, we're healthier physically and emotionally. We're going to the doctor less. However, the asterisk there is emergency room visits, I think, are up. So, and then another 51 million of that is in direct business benefits. It's funny, as we were on our tour today, we started at the Kohler Mountain Bike Preserve, and I just kind of offhandedly said, okay, as we ride through here, you're going to probably see 4 to 5 Sprinter vans. And, you know, if you don't know, van life is a thing. And these vans are $100,000. And sure enough, we hit like 7 of them just riding through that one corridor, and many of them had out-of-state license plates. And so when you think about a lot of the traditional model for recruiting people, visitors, was big conferences, big conventions, big trade shows, which I'm not taking anything away from that. However, what we have found here is this dynamic of the flywheel, and it's happening every day. And yes, there's been a big investment in the infrastructure, and yes, there's been a big investment in the culture, but now the system is in place that you're having people move to Northwest Arkansas, travel to Northwest Arkansas to ride our trails, and they're eating our hamburgers, drinking our coffee, buying bike parts, and staying in our hotels.
Right. Yep, property values near the trail have gone up, so that's good, I guess. $137 million. That's really incredible. So you've talked about the academy. You've got a group here. I noticed that you have an excursion coming up to New York City, and I know you go to Austin occasionally. Tell me, if I were to attend one of those, what would I do?
Really, our academy is really focused on a lot more of the technical aspects of building a connected community, where our excursions, where we take people out of market, is much more focused on exposure. I had the unique opportunity to live in the New York, New Jersey area for several years. And to come back to New York and see what they've done in terms of bike infrastructure, and in particular in Times Square, has been stunning. And what they're seeing in terms of data and retail based on before and after those changes were made were pretty remarkable. So a lot of what we're doing there is less about the technical details of building infrastructure, but it's much more about exposing about what's possible. Worth, you and I were in Copenhagen, Denmark in 2016 together, and I would say it was helped change my life and put me on the trajectory that I'm on today. And as part of that was about that exposure of going to another place and seeing what's possible. New York is in July. I was just there a couple months ago. And it's going to be a blast. We're going to learn a lot, and we're going to have a lot of fun, really exploring a multimodal city, on foot, on bike, on a subway and bus system. So
Right. Yeah, you're one of very few people that I've ridden bikes with in Copenhagen. It's a pretty tight little club that we've got. And,
there's one right here, Paxton.
I see him, yeah. So you pointed out before that there are many social benefits to active transportation. You've touched on that. Can you put a finer point on it?
Yeah, I think a lot of times in this space, it's real easy to get focused on building cool things for cool people, and we lose the social aspect of that. Access to reliable transportation is a primary concern for people living in poverty or on the edge of poverty. For most of us in this room, I would imagine that when we go to our cars in the morning and we go to start our car, if it doesn't start, boy, it's an inconvenience or it's a frustration. Chances are you have either the cash to get it towed, you can call an Uber, you can ride a bike. There's lots of options available. But for many residents in our communities, when they go to turn their car over in the morning and start their car and it doesn't start, the cascade of events that moves into somebody's life when they don't have access to reliable transportation is very real. My wife and I, 12 years ago, stepped into foster care and adopted our youngest 4 children from foster care. And we saw kind of an underbelly here in Northwest Arkansas that maybe we knew existed, but had never experienced it in the way that we did when we became foster parents. And I often say that the degrees of separation for a young mother, father, young family losing access to reliable transportation and losing their children to foster care is embarrassingly low in this country. And so when you think about the repercussions of not being able to get to work, not being able to get your kids to the doctor, not being able to do whatever you need to do because you have a reliance on a single form of transportation. And so that's what we're really focused on is yes, the economy's great. 137 million's awesome. City Council loves to hear that when they're approving a new project. But there's also this very real altruistic aspect of this is the right thing to do in creating options for people to be able to move about their city and to be able to access things that they need to.
Okay, time for lightning round. Yeah, yeah. Well said. Lightning round, real quick. So one fun thing. What is your favorite thing to do outside?
Anybody that's near me knows it's paddling. If my happy place. I mean, I like to ride bikes, of course. Paddling is less painful. So for me, as Tom said, Buffalo River, that's my thing. I did my first solo journey on the Buffalo, 3 days on the Buffalo in March. I'll do that again in March.
Oh, wow.
So
solo.
Yeah. Somebody asked me, Mike Spivey asked me the other day, so what is it about paddling and canoeing that you like, or what do you do? And I said, it's basically eating. So it's all about the cooler and the snacks and the charcuterie and the drinks. And so, yeah.
Okay, so along that lines, just real quickly, what is the pinnacle outdoor activity that you've participated in?
Well, I think I know where you're going with this, but I wouldn't necessarily consider it an outdoor event.
Okay.
I did have a chance to play in the Super Bowl.
Okay.
So
I
know you.
Yeah.
I know you well enough to know where you were going for that. But yeah, I had an opportunity to play in the Super Bowl 35, so that dates me a bit. So
That's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We lost. That's usually the question.
See, you didn't have to bring that up.
Yeah,
So-
people ask,
yeah.
did you get a ring? And I say, yes, I got the loser's ring.
Well, yeah. Well, you're a winner in this room today, so thank you so much for taking the time. Thanks a lot. All right. Now I'd like to welcome our next guest. She's a co-founder of Bike POC, a group dedicated to creating more diverse and equitable active transportation and in that ecosystem here in Northwest Arkansas. Please welcome to the stage, B. Apple.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brought
Thank you
show
for
and
joining
tell.
us. Oh, that's great. I love show and tell. That's wonderful. So backstage, I learned that you and Ryan went to high school together in Rogers.
We did.
So now you have an opportunity to throw him under the bus. Is there anything you'd like to say?
No, honestly, if you had told me when I was 13 years old, starting my freshman year sophomore year at Rogers High School, that the football star would be leading me in a conversation to talk about bikes, I would have laughed in your face.
Right.
So. I love Ryan. I think he's amazing.
Yeah, it's strange how things just come around, especially if you're in a community like Northwest Arkansas and what we have here. Real quick, kind of a one fun thing before we dive in. What is your recreation of choice?
Ooh, mountain biking.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair
I can
enough.
go.
Just-
I can elaborate on that further, but
Okay, well, maybe here in a minute. So what is Bike POC and why did you co-found it?
Bike POC is a mashup of the word bike and BIPOC. BIPOC stands for Black Indigenous People of Color, and bike, we know that. Cam and I started Bike POC in the summer of 2020 when, yes.
Kim
C.
Okay.
Kim and I, we started, it started out as a Black Lives Matter solidarity ride in the wake of the murder of George Floyd. Kim and I, as representatives of the Northwest Arkansas community, having grown up spent most of our adult lives here, raising kids here, and also being ambassadors of the sport as women, but also as women of color. We found that in the summer of 2020, we really needed community to be able to talk about the awakening that the country was going through and that we ourselves were experiencing at the same time. So we started off with, like how many things do, with a bike ride.
Right, that's great. So I've read where you've described cycling as empowering. Why is that?
So when you're mountain biking, it's a bunch of micro decisions where you're constantly gauging where your body is and where your mind is. And in that moment, you're constantly having to question, do I go a little bit further? What are my surroundings? Can I do it? And I found that in practice, when you do things with your body and engage your mind that way, it changes who you are at your core. And we've been hearing a lot about how the outdoors is so transformational. And I think, on a personal level for me, being brave on a bike and coming from growing up in the Bronx, where I didn't have access to outdoor programs, where I didn't have access to safe infrastructure, I had never really been a sporty person, which is why it was like to have Ryan speaking in front of me like I was the class geek. So I would have never thought that I could mountain bike, and it made me brave in a way that I had never been before. And I found that it made me brave not just to go out there and do bike races, and it also made me brave to speak clearly and with confidence to my community, because it wasn't just about me accessing the sport. It was about expanding and bringing along people like me who had never had access to it.
Yeah, cycling is sort of a mindful meditation. Like you said, it's pretty important that you're focused in the moment. You recently were part of a summit here in Fayetteville. Can you kind of give us a thumbnail sketch of what happened there?
So Critical Mass Summit, if you know the history of the word critical mass, it's a term that's used in science and in social science, but also and also as in bike terminology. A critical mass is when you achieve enough reactions to generate a self-sustaining ecosystem or whatever, chemical reaction, whatever it is. And it also works in social movements where you have enough connections within a social space to generate a self-sustaining movement. And for us, critical mass last year was about planting the seeds of a sustainable grassroots advocacy that could create a more equitable transportation system for everybody. Because we recognize that in order to achieve the physical infrastructure that it's going to take to make active transportation better at a city block level, neighborhood level, is going to take not just the actual physical infrastructure, it's going to take the people infrastructure. And so that was critical mass in the first year. It was let's seed an event that basically expresses what our values are in terms of equity and transportation justice, creating an event that expresses our values in everything that we do, from the speakers that we hire to the way that we create safe space for the people to attend, and the way that we call in other members of the community to learn from marginalized communities.
So this was the second one, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
This was the second one.
So, and it was significantly amped up, I think, from the first one. Do you feel like people walked away from critical mass with a better understanding of how to build a more inclusive community around?
Yes, absolutely. I can very confidently say that from the work that Kim and I have been doing in the region for the last 2 years, but also just existing here in Arkansas, the conversations that we're having have not been had in this space yet. And I'm really proud to say that we've been pioneering in that space. We've been having conversations about really hard topics and the way that they intersect with active transportation. if I've talked to attendees, gotten feedback from multiple folks, and the general consensus is the conversations were really impactful. We brought national experts in to talk about real hard facts around who has access to active transportation, because my role in this ecosystem is not just, it is about the what, it is about the what of the economy, it is about the what of active transportation, but it's also about who is at the table, who gets to access active transportation.
Right. So conversations about race and gender and sexuality, they can be very difficult. So how do you start those? And do you have any pointers for the rest of us?
So the way that we start them is by not being afraid to say the words ourselves. And it's a challenge to everybody in the audience, is before you can go out and talk about these things, you have to know and be educated yourself on what the issues are. And I would never ask anybody to do something that I'm not willing to get up here and do myself. Does that answer your question?
Yes. So we've been talking a lot about social issues. But you yourself are a serial entrepreneur.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts on kind of tapping into the recreation economy for anybody out there that would like to be their own boss?
Yes. So I brought some show and tell. So a lot of people know me because I opened up a restaurant here in downtown Bentonville in 2011. So I was press room. I was an engineer before that. This was my first time to open a restaurant. I have been so lucky to be invested in by some really amazing people, and I had a lot of people believe in me. In 2011, before Crystal Bridges even opened, had the opportunity to open up, one of the first coffee shops in Bentonville, which we had the first avocado sandwich. So I'm a pioneer in a lot of other ways too. Gosh, this is such a loaded question because it's, this is an amazing place to start a business, but I will also say that from my perspective, it's a challenge on who can access that capital and who has access to, the people and the connections. My first advice to someone who wants to start a business is first find out for yourself who you are and how that relates to what you want to bring to the world. And a lot of the times that is a process of uncovering who your true self is outside of what society has told you. For me, coming to Hillfolk and opening up a business that's a textile studio and a craft store goes back to who I was as a 9-year-old when I was living in the Bronx. And the only access that I had to enriching was a walk to the public library, which I was lucky enough to have access to, where I read books about knitting. This was pre-YouTube. And I taught myself out of a book. And, the seed of opening Hillfolk was I wanted to create something that my 9-year-old self would want. So it's like tapping back into your personal story to find out, what is that magic thing? And it's different for everybody. So
that's fantastic. So we're close to lightning round. What do you have? I'm sorry, back up a little bit. So mountain biking, you mentioned at the top. So we'll come back to that. What is your favorite trail in Northwest Arkansas and why?
My favorite trail is going to be the Slaughter Pen Phase 1, which is, the OG trails that Kim took me out on when we went on our first rides. It was Tatamagouche and Medusa, and they were so hard. It was hard, but I learned how to ride those trails, and I taught my boys how to ride those trails too. So I've taught my boys on a bike that Kim lent to me.
So I ride road. I'm kind of.
That's okay.
I'm scared of breaking bones. What would you recommend to anybody that would like to try out mountain biking?
Ooh. Okay.
Just do it, or go with a friend, or.
Okay, I'm gonna say some stuff. So. The number one thing I would encourage anybody to seek out when they're looking to get into any new sport is find your people, find community who want to do this with you. It's okay not to be the fastest person in the room. The amazing thing about cycling is you can be really good at it in a lot of different ways. You don't have to be the fastest person to be great at it. Figure out ways to bring your community along with you. I think that's my challenge to everybody in this room is, it's November 10th, and as somebody who has tremendously loved and invested in this state and has raised her family here, I'm really trying to figure out, for myself and for my family, how to navigate existing in an ecosystem when, as a woman, as a mother, I'm trying to, when I talk about who has access to the trails, it's this is hard for me to say. Access to trails in the outdoors is transformational, and I believe that everybody should take part in it. But what I'm seeing in our state and our community and in the country at large that's really concerning to me is that, I woke up, this month and realized that, as an Arkansan woman, I have less rights to my body than when I first moved to Arkansas in 1993, and that breaks my heart. And I know there are a lot of other people who feel that way. And I think it's my challenge to the community that it's not just about getting out there and getting on your bike, because we have to have autonomy. Being on a bike is about having freedom. And when I don't have the right to determine, what happens to my reproductive system, is it really freedom at that point?
Thank you so much for everything you do. I hope to get to talk with Bea more later, and we'll continue with the program.
Welcoming back to the stage Axios co-founder Mike Allen.
Thank you, Bea, for such a powerful and memorable, resonant message. So, to review, we have a 30-foot deer stand. We have a cooler with charcuterie. We have a Super Bowl ring. And we have an avocado sandwich. And now for the big finish, our Drop the Mic guest is Phil Shellhammer from a little thing called the University of Arkansas. He's the director of the Greenhouse Outdoor Recreation Program. You may call it GORP. Phil Shellhammer, welcome to Axios. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
So appreciate it. So you have an outdoor incubator. Tell us what that is.
I do. We're going to call it GORP. So GORP is an incubator for startups, right? Our goal is to help entrepreneurs who are creating ideas or solving problems, basically, from idea to launch, and help them all the way through those stages. How do you build a business? How do you come up with the problem, determine the target customer set, how do you set up a prototype, whatever the case is, all the way through to launching that business. And so we try and help them through those stages through this program. It's designed to help people in an a la carte fashion. So sometimes they just need a little help. I spent an hour with an entrepreneur yesterday who just didn't know where to start. And so we sit down and kind of walk through how this works. And then what we also do is we also have a 12-week more intensive incubator. People apply to that, and then they get the kind of the full support of our program, lots of training, mentorship, a free student from the university as an intern, even financial support. So.
Phil, you and I were chatting backstage. This is something the Walton family is very big on, is building an ecosystem. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we look at our region, right, an ecosystem of trying to present how do we create a variety. I kind of see it like a circle, right? With a bunch of different feeders into the end, right? And you need different support groups all around to help. In an entrepreneurship ecosystem, for instance, you need entrepreneurship support organizations, you need finance and capital, right? You need training, and you need workforce. You need all these different pieces around our entrepreneurs. And so we have to build all those pieces individually so that collectively that supports, in this case, the entrepreneur and what they're building.
And what's an example of that?
Well, I think what we're doing right here in Northwest Arkansas is a great example of that, right? GORP is designed to provide a lot of those different pieces, but GORP would be one piece of the puzzle. When I have an entrepreneur come to me and they say, hey, I need help, I'm trying to build X, Y, and Z, right? Then we sit down, we give them the first stages of here's the tools we use and here's how we can help, here's the training, but then here's a list of workshops you could go to, or let's set you up with somebody. I know somebody over here that's done that before, has worked in a similar business. So we start to set up mentorship or even just connections and networking. But beyond us, then if I'm the only one helping them, we're all in trouble, right? And so I'll start listing off ASB, TDC, for instance, which is an awesome organization in our area, or Startup Junkie, who are both designed to help these entrepreneurs as well, so that other people and other experts are around them, helping them think through the individual challenges that I myself don't know all the details of how to solve.
And I know you're interested in encouraging, supporting entrepreneurs beyond Northwest Arkansas to the whole heartland. Zoom out, as we would say at Axios.
Yeah. If you zoom out further, I think you can replicate a lot of the pieces of what we're talking about in other communities for sure. Let's take Arkansas, for instance. Right, the state of Arkansas has outdoor recreation all around it. We have people who see problems all around the state that need to be solved. And yet, GORP being right up here in Northwest Arkansas isn't always as helpful to somebody who might be in southeastern Arkansas. And so wherever we can take the skill sets, the capabilities, the tools that we're creating within this particular ecosystem here and replicate them in other areas, we would like to figure out how to do that. And Catherine was up here earlier. We've talked to her quite a bit about how do we take what we're already building here and not make it a Northwest Arkansas only piece? How do we support people around the state and even broader? We're getting people applying to the program right now that are from, I've had applications from Vermont to LA. And so we know people are finding us and are interested.
I could be wrong. I'm kind of going out on a limb here. I'm not sure that either Vermont or LA counts as heartland.
And neither of them are in the cohort right now.
It's a very broad definition.
No, I mean, but we are open to helping. I just want to help. Honestly, at the end of the day, what I love about my job is I get a call from an entrepreneur that says, I don't know how to do this. I know I got a problem. Here's my prototype, or here's the app I'm trying to design, or whatever the case is. They just come and but they don't know what to do next. And so I don't really care where they're at. Right? Sure, we want economic development here. We're going to try and pull them into our region where our cohort is designed to be face-to-face, so we want people to come here and be a part of this community when they're working. But honestly, both ends of that spectrum, I wanted to help. I think both are great ideas, and I'm trying to figure out how to help them find the next connection. Sometimes I get a call from somebody in West Virginia. I know people who are doing the same kind of work in West Virginia. We circle them right back to that group and make sure that they have those connections too.
And the reason they're anxious to call you and lucky to talk to you is for you, this isn't academic. You are a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah. I first started with a serial corporate job for a big chunk of my career. And even
little something called Sam's Club.
Little place called Sam's. And even in there, I kind of felt like the entrepreneur, right? I always loved the roles where I got to solve problems. I got to create something new. I don't maintain all that well as I like to create new. And so when I left Sam's about 3 years ago, I started to look for opportunities to do just that. And I found a couple of problems I thought were really interesting to solve. One in our community is around really training kids in after-school STEM training. So I bought a franchise actually called Wise Computing Academy, little plug. And what we do is we have teachers that are going into schools right now helping kids learn how to program robots and how to do programming for the first time. And we're going to preschools all the way up to middle schools on how to teach them to do STEM for the first time. Oftentimes their first exposure to some of these tools they've never seen before. Hopefully building up a skill set that will be valuable for them in the future. And then I built an app with a buddy of mine as well that's really around the travel industry. Both of these, by the way, travel and on-site education during COVID, which was super fun. So and that really got me into this community, though. It got me in the ecosystem. I started learning from all the people that are in our community and what they're doing, the power of the tools that they provide, and I just loved it. And so I started helping entrepreneurs on the side, doing a little consulting on the side, and then this opportunity came up. It seemed like the perfect mix of everything.
What does your travel app do?
So it was called Explore. It is called Explore. The idea is we wanted to gamify travel destinations. So I would rather you go to Crystal Bridges and play a game, especially with your kids, on your phone, than just walk around and read the cards. And so we believed in trying to design games that were built for the location, but built on the phone.
Now, zooming in, we're focusing today on the recreation, the outdoor economy. What are a couple of problems that entrepreneurs you've met with, people you've worked with at Gorp, what are problems they saw in the outdoors or related to recreation that would resonate with our guests today?
Yeah, some examples, right? I've got 7, Tom mentioned this earlier, we have 7 companies currently in the cohort. And they range all across the board. I've got 3 companies that are building bikes, actual bike frames, and none of them are competitive to each other. We have one that has decided to create a really great solution for kind of a higher end mountain bike frame. Another one who really wants to change alternative transportation and would like all of you going grocery shopping on your bikes. And so they're creating electric cargo bikes. And then the third one, which really gets the access conversation we just had a bit ago, is trying to solve how do we provide a better, more affordable solution to kids actually who are riding in the Nike tournaments to get carbon bike frames, right? Some of the hardest things to do when you're riding in these tournaments is to compete on a bike that just can't compete with the more carbon frames. And yet those frames are super expensive for a lot of these kids. And so they're trying to solve this access problem by providing a better, lower cost solution.
You really have to be here to experience like how much Northwest Arkansas is changing and the amazing things that are here. But we talked about the sort of very big picture. Tell us a little bit, especially for our guests who are around the world, about the ecosystem in Northwest Arkansas, and maybe even specifically where we are at this moment in Bentonville.
Yeah, well, so it's interesting. All of the people that came before me up here are all doing stuff that ties in to exactly what we're talking about in that ecosystem, right? And you have so much. If you just look at Northwest Arkansas, just from a how do we provide access and help people get into these sports and these activities, there are multiple organizations, well-funded and well thought through, to help bring people in that otherwise would feel shunned or don't feel a part of it at all. And that is such a powerful piece of the ecosystem because it is not only bringing those riders, for instance, with cycling into the cycling system, but it's opening up new problems that need to be solved, right? So then I go back to entrepreneurship, and we're sitting around talking about, well, here's how we're going to get people of this either race or ethnicity, or maybe even this people with certain body size into the group. And suddenly there's a lot of other problems that need to be solved that we can help an entrepreneur who wants to try and solve it for them. So you've got that section, you've got the entrepreneurship support area. One of the biggest opportunities is how do we support these entrepreneurs? And that comes through, of course, capital, right? Every single one of them are going to walk out of Gorp and they're going to hope to find an investor or somebody that can help them get to the next stage, because a lot of these companies can't keep going and can't keep growing, at least the scalable ones, without some of that investment. But we also have a tremendous group of mentors. You think about the expertise that comes out of our larger corporations around here and the expertise that's moving into our community every single day. We're trying to grab every single one of them and then plug them into these companies, plug them into these entrepreneurs, help them, support them, answer questions for them. Many of our mentors have seen this time and time again, and they can answer the question of, how do I market on TikTok? Or how do I use an influencer? Right? And they don't know how to do these things, but we have experts that we can put us alongside of them.
I was very interested in what you were saying about inclusivity. What's an example of a solution there that you're familiar with or that you maybe even have helped foster? Or things that you know people are working on now.
Yeah, I love what Marley's doing with All People on Bikes. I hope I said that name right. All Bodies on Bikes. It's All Bodies on Bikes, isn't it? Thank you. I love what she's doing with that. I just think she's bringing in a group of, if you guys don't know Marley, go find her. It is amazing the number of people that are following her, the number of people she's bringing into the cycling industry that otherwise would not consider getting on a bike. And her perspective on the sport, her perspective on the people that are following her, what she's doing for them, I think is tremendous. And so what we hope to do as Gorp, but I hope to do as one piece of that ecosystem that's around her, is literally just to go, how can I help? Like if there's ways that we can help because we don't know how to finance something, or if there's ways we can help because there's opportunities for other solutions that can help, like whatever it is, how can we help? Because that's doing great for our community.
Phil, we're about to get the hook, so wrap it around, as Worth would say. You are a road cyclist. I know you camp and fish with your kids. Tell us about road cycling and what it's like around here.
Yeah, road cycling around here, there's just a massive community of all the cycling areas, right? And so the road cycling group, I think, is very strong. Each individual area has their own teams in different cities. I tend to be a little bit more by myself. I live off of Wagon Wheel down in Springdale. I tend to just drive west and go as far as I can until I get tired and turn around and come back. But there's so much opportunity to ride. There's so much areas to go. There's lots of trails that are already kind of curated from people who've done it a lot. So it's very easy to jump into.
And big finish with one fun thing. You're an outdoor photographer. Tell me about a particularly memorable shot. Or image, I should say, I guess.
Yeah. So to be clear, he didn't put amateur, but amateur outdoor photographer. Love doing it, not selling anything. But one of my favorite shots is truly, so I love the idea of putting together wildlife with the nature around. And so I happen to be out in the middle of nowhere, Colorado, on a photography kind of adventure with somebody. We'd hired a guide and there was this mother moose and her calf walking through, and I got the whole scene behind with those two coming in the front. It was just gorgeous.
And what is one tip for fellow amateur outdoor photographers? Go where no one else is willing to go. Right? Obviously, in outdoor photography, you can go to the same shots everybody else goes, but if you're willing to go somewhere no one else is willing to go, you will often find unique shots. That's pretty good advice for an entrepreneur, too.
Absolutely.
Phil, thank you very much for a great conversation.
Thank you.
So appreciate it. Thank you. We're grateful for the incredible insight that we've gotten from our guests. We're grateful to the Northwest Arkansas Council for making these amazing conversations possible. Thank you to the Axios events team. This is incredible that they do this on the road. And just after having done another event, I'm never not amazed by what my Axios events colleagues do. We're grateful for Axios Northwest Arkansas readers and journalists. So I will see you on Axios Northwest Arkansas, on Axios.com. And now, please join us for lunch. Look forward to visiting. Thank you for your hospitality.